Hey up, right, I'm going to be fitting the Honda rear rack system on the CL500 today in conjunction with the Longride Pannier rail. Now I've got a bit of a dilemma with this one because Longride say that this pannier rail isn't supposed to be fitted in conjunction with any other accessories, and of course the Honda rear rack is an accessory, but then looking in the kit suggests that they absolutely intend this to be fitted with the Honda rack. So we'll get on to that in a moment. First thing I need to do is get all this lot off, and while I'm doing that I just want to talk to you about a couple of things that have cropped up over the last few days. One is YouTube keeps telling me that I must cut to the chase immediately in my videos, and I must give viewers you know, the sort of clean cut of all the information the video contains right at the beginning in the first 30 seconds. I mean, to me that's a little bit like watching a movie, but you go right to the end of the movie first and watch the last 10 minutes to find out what's happened, and then you go back to the beginning and watch the entire film knowing what happens at the end. I don't really see the point in that, but it's constantly at me to do it. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Now, yeah, a couple of funny things happened to me over the weekend while I was riding this bike, which sort of leads me to believe that there's a certain genius to what Honda have done with their modern classics that nobody else is doing. When I first introduced this bike to the channel back in, oh God, I don't know when it was months ago. That was mainly due to the fact that everybody was asking me to review this bike. I remember sort of seeing this bike at Miles Kingsport over a year ago and kind of liking it, but I didn't appreciate that it was a modern classic. You know, that hadn't sort of clicked in my head, and I think this is because we're all conditioned by marketing nowadays to believe that a modern classic has to be a bike designed around a motorcycle built in the 1950s or 1960s, which I've been guilty of. That's all I've been throwing at you for the last what, 7 years. You know, with bikes like the, you know, the Triumph Bonnevilles and the Royal Enfields, and if I'm honest, I think it's all starting to become a bit of a cliche now. You know, when you say modern classic now, everybody's sort of expecting some sort of caricature of a motorcycle that's got to look a certain way. But then, going back to this weekend, on Saturday I was just trying to put some miles on this bike. I went to Withensea. The bike was parked up, and a young man, early to mid-20s, not a motorcyclist, came over and started talking to me about this bike and, you know, telling me what a lovely bike this is. And one thing that he kept saying is, that bike, it looks like new, it's brilliant, it looks so nice, it looks like new. And of course in my head I thought, well yeah, that's because it is new. But you've got to appreciate this lad, you know, he's not a motorcyclist, he's not into bikes. And it was about the third time he'd said this in the conversation, you know, it looks like it's brand new. I said, well, yeah, that's because it is. And he said, oh, well, I thought it was an old bike that you'd restored. And I think this is a shift in demographics with people. Now, on Monday, I had almost the same conversation with somebody else. It's a guy that used to live down my street when I was a kid. So, you know, I've known him most of my life, and every now and again, every couple of years, we bump into each other at the local supermarket and we have a little chin wag. And I was on the CL, and the first thing he said when he saw it is, that's just like my 125 trail bike I had in the 1980s. And it clicked with me what's happening. You know, most of the people that watch this channel, as I say, you've all been conditioned really to expect a modern classic motorcycle to be styled on something from the 50s or 60s, but demographics, although you may be in the same demographics, you know, the 40 to 60 year old, it's not a constant, it's changing all the time. These two people I spoke to at the weekend, their recollection of motorcycles when they were younger were this kind of bike, not something, you know, from the 50s and the 60s, so they immediately identified it as a modern classic. And I think that's the genius of what Honda have done here. You know, they got bitten by the modern classic thing back in 1984. They were the first company to bring out what we think of today as a modern classic, a modern bike built to look like an old bike. And they've decided to sort of future-proof the modern classic range, the Honda modern classic range, by creating bikes styled on bikes from the late 70s and the early 1980s, because, you know, the guys that remember bikes from the 50s and 60s, even if it was just bikes that the dad rode, or even the granddad rode, they're dying out now. But as they die out, you've got younger people coming of age, if you like, and moving into that demographic. So their perspective on what a modern classic is very different from the demographic of 20 years before them. So I do think it's really clever. I mean, I'm having a lot of conversations with people about this bike whenever I park up, which has surprised me. I didn't expect that. But yeah, it does show the genius of what Honda are doing and what I think is going to happen in the future, because I think this, you know, this caricature 1950s, 1960s bike, modern classic bike, is eventually going to become a little bit too passé and cliched for people, and opinions and tastes are going to shift. I mean, everybody keeps saying, I keep getting comments about this, saying, oh, it's the ugliest bike ever made. No, it's not. The BMW GS Adventure range, they're the ugliest bikes ever made, and they sell a shit ton of those bikes. So, you know, everybody's opinion is different about things, but I think Honda have done the right thing. Right, so we've got that off. I'm using the Halfords Mini Toolkit today. Main reason being, and this is the first black mark in the Wearer Toolkits book, I know I've got to take a couple of bolts off on the exhaust side of this bike, and I just offered them up, and there isn't enough clearance because the actual tool itself is too long. But the Halfords one is perfect, so yeah, we can get on. Right, now I'm going to bring the camera in, and we're going to have a look at this dilemma that we've got here. So just give me a moment. Right, so the fixing points for both the rear rack and the pannier rail are here. They're both got to be connected on this side onto these two fixings. Now, Longride's instruction manual provides you with some information. It says that it comes with two spacers, so there's two of these, and some extra long bolts if you require more clearance. But then in the next sentence it says this is not designed to be used in conjunction with any other accessories, which I think is Longride hedging their bets in case somebody gets this wrong and there's an issue. What I have noticed, maybe not, they are both the same length. So these spacers making sure that I get the I just thought I'd do this in real time instead of, you know, sort of prepping everything. And right, so this is the part of your rear rack. It's actually in The rear rack is in two halves, and then there's a plate that fastens on top to connect it all together. I've not read the instructions because I'm from East Yorkshire and we don't do instructions until Mr. Cockup comes to visit. So hopefully, if he doesn't pay a visit today, this will go well. Otherwise, I'm going to have to cut the camera. And found the instructions online. Now, these are the extra bolts that they provide. They're a fair bit longer than the ones that come with it. Personally, I don't think they're long enough for this application, and let me show you what I mean. The way I see it, that sort of goes like that, you know, fastened onto the bike, and those fasten onto that. These spacers have been provided because they're exactly the right length to go inside the sockets on the Honda kit to give you enough clearance to fit these over the top of it. I mean, I can't think of any other reason for these spacers being in this kit. But yeah, that's all the wrong way around. But it struck me that Honda will have exactly the same problem with their racking system, because if they're fitting these, you know, if they're supplying these kits for fitting without the rear rack, they're going to have to be designed very similar to these. But then if you have to put the rear rack on as well, which they are designed to work together, they're going to have to come up with a very similar solution using spacers like this. So I think Longride are just sort of legally hedging the bets with this, so that if you go ahead and use these and fit it this way, if anything goes wrong, they're not blamed for it. Now, the only issue that I have with this is it doesn't expose much thread. Now, technically, the length of the thread has to be equal or greater than the diameter of the thread for it to be a safe fastening, which it is. You know, it's an 8mm thread, and I would say that's about probably 15mm long. So in theory, these are long enough, but these threads are actually about 1.5 inches deep, and I would prefer to be using all of it rather than part of it, because, you know, if Paula's putting weight on this top box, the shearing forces are going to be quite high just against sort of a, you know, 1200mm of thread, and I'm not comfortable with that. I'm not saying that what Longride have provided here isn't right. What I'm saying is I would just be more comfortable using something a bit longer. Well, that was clever, wasn't it? So I've come up with a solution. Now, part of the reason for me doing this is because whenever I make these sort of videos, I always get the nut and bolt police out telling me that I'm using the wrong strength nuts and bolts for things, and I should be using this, or I should be using that, I shouldn't be using the bolt that I've used. Done a bit of research. These are an M80 by 90 12.9 grade bolt that I got from Amazon. I would have preferred an 85mm, but 90 was the only one that I could get with you know, a reasonably corrosion proof zinc plating on it. The only other option, if I want an 85, which I did buy some in, and I haven't tried any of these out yet to find out which are going to be the most suitable. You know, you're very limited in what sizes you can get. I think that's probably why Longride have ended up supplying these with the kits, because it's not just a matter of deciding what grade and length bolt you want, it's a matter of what length and grade of bolt is available for the application that you want it in. So these are the 90mm ones, so I'm just going to offer these up. What I'm worried about with these is that this shaft is going to be too long, and you know, by the time I put all these bits together, we're going to run out of thread basically before I can tighten these up. That's what I have a feeling is going to happen here. So I ordered some 85mm ones in, which if that is the case, hopefully will solve that problem. Otherwise I am going to have to use the ones that Longride have provided. So looking at this, actually I think we will get away with these. But what I'm going to have to do first is put that on correctly, because that's stupid. Will we get away with these? So yeah, this is the 90mm, and yeah, we are going to get away with these because you know, the thread is contained within that assembly, so we've got enough thread there to fasten these on. So I'm going to go with these 90mm. I'll leave a link in the video description on Amazon. They're not cheap. I think it's about £7 for two, or it might have been more, I can't remember, but as I said, I did get some 85mm in as well. Now if you look at that thread, we've got basically double the amount of thread to go in there, so we're going to have a much more secure fastening, which I just personally feel happier with. The reason I've gone for 12.9 grade steel bolts is the shear strength compared to stainless steel. Most of the stainless steel bolts are only A2 grade. Ideally I wanted an A480 grade, and I just couldn't find any in the dimensions that I needed, so I've had to go for steel. These zinc coated ones are better than the black oxide ones, the 85mm ones that I had, because there is actually a disclaimer on there saying that they might not be very good at resisting corrosion, so these are the best choice for the job. Let's get on with it. Hopefully this will go according to plan. Right, so I'll get what I do need. I need the washers that come with the kit. I mean, just for demonstration, what I will show you is the amount of thread that Honda have utilised in their kit. I'm getting mixed up with all my bolts here now. So let's just find them so we can compare what we've got. So these are the ones that Honda are supplying with the kit. Obviously these are just designed for fitting this rack onto there, and if you put these through, as you can see, actually there's slightly less thread there than I've got with the other kit, but I've checked it out and I know that these threads go well back, so I've got plenty of meat on the threads there, and the more thread you're actually using, the more secure theoretically your fastening is going to be. So I think I've made the right decision. You know, with the longer bolts that Longride supplied, it was about 10mm shorter than what we've got here. So, you know, bearing in mind the extra weight, the shearing forces, I just decided to go with a longer bolt, and I'll leave a link for that bolt in the video description if I can find it. Right, I'll just drop the spacer in here. So right, there's going to be a little bit of jiggling about on camera here to get this right. I'm just a little bit worried that I've got my bolts mixed up now. Right, so we'll put the yeah, I mean, as I say, the way Longride have supplied these, it just seems to me that this is exactly what they intended those spacers for. There's no other way you can look at it. I can't think of any other way, any other reason for using those spacers. I'll just get that one started, get it in a ways. What I might do is, once I've locked these in, I'll just take the seat off so you can see that these threads are not protruding out of the back where they might cause some problems. So just let that dangle a minute. The second bolt, put the washer on. Jiggling about to do it. Let's get the thread started. And this all actually went on a lot easier than just trying to line everything up here just with the rack. So yeah, I'm quite happy with the way that's gone so far. We've just got to make sure they're going in nice and easy and not cross the threads. Keep tightening it. But on the other side, yeah, I was a little bit disappointed with the Wearer kit that, you know, with the actual bit on it and then the adapter piece, there isn't enough clearance at the other side because of the exhaust. So Halford's kit has scored some brownie points against it with this one. Right, so that's home. It's not tightened up yet, but it's home. I mean, these clearances, they're all, you know, just spot on for fitting with this rack. So I'm confident that I've done the right thing here. It was just a bit of a dilemma from my point of view because you're contravening what the manufacturer has told you to do. These do come in packs of 4, by the way. It's, you know, well, actually it's a pack of 5. So I've got 3 spares. Unfortunately, that was the smallest pack size that they did, which is probably why it cost me a tenner or whatever it was. So let's just take the seat off to make sure that we've got plenty of clearance and I'm not screwing that bolt into the I always have trouble finding this. I'm not screwing that bolt into the rear mudguard or anything stupid like that and causing damage. As you see, without my glasses, perhaps I should put those on. Yeah, they're nowhere near even Patriot. I mean, I could probably have gone with something another 5 mil longer, to be quite honest on that. They're not even poking through the back there, so I can go ahead and confidently tighten this up and not be concerned. What I was concerned about is that, you know, if they were too long, they were going to go into something else and damage it on this side. But yeah, quite happy with that. So we'll tighten these up. I'm not going to go too hard with them just yet because with this rack, in fact I might even have to loosen that off. With this rack being in 2 parts, we might need to loosen things up just to line both sides up. Let's move on to the other side. Now I had a few people in the last video when I fitted the Longride kit saying, well, yeah, people have had trouble with these bolts, but what you've just shown us there isn't really true to life, is it? Because you admitted that you'd already loosened those bolts off, so how do we know they were as easy as you said they were? I'm just putting a cloth on there just to protect the exhaust from this, because the clearances are tight, but you do have clearance. I haven't touched these bolts. These are fitted by the factory. So that's one loosened. As I say, I haven't touched these. And that's the second one loosened. It's in my view, you know, the stories that I've heard about people chewing the hexes up on these, it's all down to using cheap tools. And once again, as far as I can see, there is no Loctite on these. I mean, these won't be the best quality bolts in the world anywhere, because basically they're just blanking plugs. All they're really designed for is to stop the weather getting into these threads and rusting them up before anybody has a chance to use them. So they're not going to use the best bolts in the world for that, you know, they are going to be the cheapest that they think is fit for the job. So, you know, it is what it is. If you use decent tools, the likelihood of you damaging, you know, rounding off threads, rounding off hexes or damaging threads are vastly reduced. I got a bit of pushback about that in last week's video. Right, so in the kit, right, yeah, we have some longer versions of what look like the same bolt, to be honest. Actually, yeah, it's times like this I really should read the instructions. And that's these Allen headed ones, socket Allen heads. Basically the same head that I've used on the other side there, albeit that it's a different colour. Obviously 2 of these will be for this side and 2 for the other side, so that's why the discrepancy. We should have some. Strangely, there are no washers for the fasteners, so in the kit. So we will be doing this a la Honda without any washers. I mean, to be fair, I've probably got some somewhere, but let's not complicate it too much for people. Right, so yeah, this is the other side. Obviously, these just go straight onto the rear like this. That is a wide rack, is that? That's going to be a very wide rack. So yeah, no washers. And as I say, actually, I mean, looking at that, I've got about the same, maybe very slightly less than I've accommodated for on the other side. So I'm happy that I went ahead and used that method. That's a bit awkward. To start this off, I would recommend probably just using a standard short Allen key, because you'd be alright once you've got these in a bit, but as you can see there, there's no clearance to get that in. Right, let me just see what I've got. Right, hopefully, Moton Scout to the rescue. Yeah, it's one of those jobs where I think that's 6mm. A traditional X key is required. Even that's tight. Check it is. Yeah, it's 6mm. It's just a matter of all I'm trying to do here. Really, is just get the thread started and get it in far enough. No, I'm going to need a ball head. This just goes to show, really. You know, people will just have one set of Allen keys, which they think is going to work for every eventuality. And they don't. You end up needing a selection. Right, so this is a ball head, which allows me to put it in at an angle so I can get that thread started. Is that working? I think it is. And the job's a good one. Yeah, people think they can get away with just one set of Allen keys, or something like that. Life really isn't that simple when you're working on anything. You need a good selection of decent quality tools. Otherwise you find yourself in trouble. Right, so yeah, I'm going to have to get that one in further with the ball end. Yeah, the alternative is to take the exhaust off to give yourself access, which that's not a good way to do it, is it? Right, so that's on that. That's actually quite tight. So yeah, that's the main part of the rack on, and looking at it, it's all been made very accurately. Everything seems to line up perfectly. Let me just check to make sure have I got clearance to get this in? Probably not. Yeah, so that's going to be a problem to tighten that one. Well, it won't be a problem. Just have to use a method that I'd have preferred not to. But yeah, so that's the main part of the rack on. As you see, it's in two parts. Personally, I've not fitted one in two parts like that. I don't know why they've done it that way, but I'm sure they've got the reasons. Now, this is designed to take this plate. I'm not going to be putting the top box on in this video because the top box itself does require some assembly, including the building of the lock barrel to match the ignition key, and I think that deserves a video all of its own because I've never done that before. I've seen it done, but I've never done it before personally myself. Right, so this is the plate that brings everything together and locks these two halves apart. Let me just check we've got the camera angle right on that. Right, so this is the plate that basically stabilizes these two halves and locks everything together. Holes all line up perfectly, so I'm not envisaging any issues with this. We've got some button head bolts here, or screws, whatever you want to call them, which are the perfect length for this. You don't want them any longer than that. The others are a bit longer, so I'm going to presume they're not for this application. So just get everything lined up. I'll just check. Doesn't look like an M8. Let me just check that there. Put that down a bit. Actually, I don't feel right for that. So no, I don't think these are the right bolts. Right, I've just had my thread pitch measurer. These are the right threads on the right thread pitch. What has happened here, obviously the threads have been cut and then the whole thing's been powder coated, and I've come across this before. The powder coating, some of it is on the threads, so it's just closed the threads up slightly, which makes everything feel tight, but actually the fan, I know Motorhome Customs had a lot of issues with this, people thinking that, I mean that one's going in really easy because there's not much on it. I know Motorhome Customs had this issue with some parts that they'd had made up, and it's the thickness of the powder coating that just gums up the thread slightly, so you just need to, it's always a good idea just to recut the thread with the right size bolts first before you try assembling anything. You know, just screw them in until they come out the bottom, and it just clears that excess powder coating off the threads inside. But yeah, I mean, even to me that felt, when I first married it up, it felt genuinely too tight, and I thought there was a mismatch with the screws or bolts, but obviously, you know, when this has all been powder coated, some of that powder coating has got in those threads and it's just gummed them up a little bit. And it is quite common to come across that with custom parts and accessories. So bear that in mind. It's these little, the shortest button head bolts. And it might just be worth you just cutting those threads. I mean, you can, if you've got a tap and die set, you can just retap it if you want to. It's a bit excessive. I mean, if you're used to using them, you'll know how to do it. But you know, it's an extra tool that you don't really require. Just recut it by just running the thread through. Otherwise, you know, there is a possibility of getting a bit confused by what's going on and then cross-threading them on the way through. That, you know, that is a danger with these sort of applications. So yeah, I mean, looking at them, the threads are all fine, nice and clean now, instead of grimy and black like they were when we started. And they're now screwing fairly easy by hand to a degree. So problem solved. So these are actually the T40 Torx. I thought it all felt a bit awkward. Easy mistake to make. Just go around and tighten all these up. You don't need to really tighten them up hard. There we go. And yeah, the job's good, and that's all together. Now all I need to do now is tighten up the ends there. I just left it slightly loose so we had a bit of slack to play with if need be, but you don't need it. Everything lines up just perfectly on these. Will I get a... Yeah, so this is the 6mm. Just tighten these up. I mean, yeah, I know, I mean, I'm a bit naughty. I should use the instructions really, but for something like this, all right, you might end up puzzling things out a little bit here and there, but I don't think it's really necessary on the next job. And I think this is why there are some bolts left over in there, because there's another plate to go on here which comes with the top box. It's in the top box box, and I think those are for fastening that adapter plate onto here. I'm not sure why they packed it with that rather than this, but there you go. It's just the way it is. Protect that. Oh, it's a bit tight on this side. Get that in there? We can't get that. No, we can't. So I'm going to have to use this ball head to tighten that up as much as I can, which isn't. I mean, they're pretty good, these things. It's just not ideal. There is scope for. I'm not going to get it any tighter than. There is scope for it slipping, but that's rock solid now. Now, thread lock. You know, I do these kind of jobs, people always tell me that I should be using thread lock. I used to. I just don't really think there's any need, as long as you just keep an eye on fasteners. Right, so yeah, I mean certainly broadens the beam of this young lady. Turns her into a bit of a meaty miss. But I wanted to get this on, even though I'm not. I'll probably do the top box next week, as I say. I just thought it'd be an interesting video building the lock barrel on that to suit the ignition key. I've not done it before. I've seen it done before. I've never actually done it before myself. So that'll be interesting. I might have to actually read some instructions for that. So you will notice as well, I am trying the comfort seat, or whatever it is you want to call it. I'll do a report on that in due course. Yeah, I mean, this is going to be handy for Paula, because you know, you've got two very widely spaced bars there for her to hold on to, and you know, this is Paula's problem at the moment after her operation. Reaching behind her is a little bit painful after a while, so they're in a perfect placement. I mean, you know, as you'd expect from Honda, it's a nice piece of kit. We've got some holes here, which will be for those other fasteners and bolts that I've got there for fastening the adapter plate on with the top box, but that adapter plate comes with the top box. It doesn't come with the rack, so that's all for a different video, which should be entertaining. Yeah, I mean, straightforward, easy fit. I can't see any issues with this long. I mean, it's just as solid as it was. I mean, my main worry with this, with Longride saying it's not designed to be used with other accessories, I mean, to me it looks like it is designed to work with it, but you know, for legal reasons they've just distanced themselves from people doing this and then running into problems later on. You know, companies do that kind of thing, but the clearances are exact. I can't see those spaces being for any other purpose. And as I say, I'll leave a link for these bolts. I did check the inside, that the thread isn't even coming out of the other side. I mean, it's a long threaded tube, and those threads, I wanted an 85, because when I took the measurements I thought there is a danger of the thread protruding and going into the plastic rear mudguard, which obviously I didn't want. I reasoned 90mm might do that. It might be a bit too long, but I didn't offer it all up to the bike because I wanted to sort of do this video organically and discover it as I went along. But yeah, the 90mm ones are just perfect for the job. We've got that extra 5mm of thread that I thought I was going to have. So you've got a good strong fixing right into that tube, which is threaded all the way. You know, it's about as bomb-proof as it's ever going to get. And as I say, this solution, I haven't seen the Honda rack, you know, Pannier rack myself, but that's the only way they can do it with their rack, because this has either got to fit directly onto the seat rail, or it's got to be accommodated inside these tubes on their rack. So, you know, their arrangement must be the same. They must supply you with a fixing kit with long bolts, short bolts, and those spacers. So I'm happy with that. I know when I very first looked at this before I fitted it, my heart sank, because I thought these two are not going to work together, but obviously they do. So we can go ahead now. What I'm going to do, I've got a Mini Patriot here, which, I mean, it's been in my garage for about 6 or 7 years. It's a little bit dusty, but it's like new. The only thing is, I know I have lost one of the keys for this. You know, it's a smaller bag, a bit less capacity than. I'll just give that a brush off and a clean up. Now, I do actually have a re-wax kit from Longride, because I thought I might have to re-wax this, but I mean, this stuff it's heirloom quality. You know, that's been in that garage for about 7 years. It was going around on the Interceptor 650 for 3 years, you know, out in all weathers, and that garage gets really damp in the winter, and it's just as good as the new one I've got. You know, they're really resilient. I've just got to sort of give it a brush over with a pig bristle brush, something like that, just to get this dust and cobwebs off. But fantastic piece of kit. I can't recommend them enough, really. So that, yeah, that's the Mini Patriot. I've got a few miles on the bike now, confident enough to take Paula on the back. With a bike under 500 cc's, I like to get a couple of 100 miles on the clock before I take a pillion, just to give the engine an easy time during its very initial wearing process. So I'm happy to take hopefully this weekend on the back of this, and I'm pleased with the way they worked out, because they're more or less at the side of her, sort of slightly behind. They should work out really well for her. I notice we've got some little bits sticking out here, which are obviously fixings for bungee hooks, etc. It's a nice piece of kit. It is a little bit odd with this, with the racks being in two-part, but if you remember me saying when I fitted the pannier rail, these things tend to warp a little bit as they're cooling down after welding, and I think Honda have probably taken this decision to make it into two halves to cut down the possibility of things not marrying up quite properly and people having to mess about and get frustrated fitting it. It just makes the whole thing much more simple to fit, and it's been a really easy fit, I've got to say. So yeah, once again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and in doing so helping to support the channel. I really do appreciate it. Leave me a like, hype the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next week.